And we are back with something a little different today. This is going to be my first proper Manchester United discussion. It's been a horrendous season. There is no shirking away from that. The lowest ever points tally. Rather easily knocked out of the three major cup competitions this season. The mood around the squad, the atmosphere, the players at each other's throats, and just all round horrendous season that thankfully is now over, and unsurprisingly with yet another defeat. But we have managed to secure ourselves Europa League football for next season, which isn't the end of the world. It's not where we want to be, but it is where we're going to be. The good news is the Ten Hag revolution begins now. He is going to be, I assume, at Carrington today, getting to see the players face to face for the first time, get into it with a few of them pretty early. If any of you saw what happened with the Sky Sports news reporters, yesterday, you'll know the sort of man that Erik Ten Hag is. He's not going to take any nonsense from anyone. And it could be a real revolution over this summer. Hopefully it works out for him. I'm obviously praying that it does. But today we're going to talk about what I would do with this Manchester United squad. We're going to go for who I would have stay, who I would have go, and who I would have sent out on loan. Now, it's also worth bearing in mind that new rules starting next season state that you can only have a maximum of 8 players out and 8 players in on loan. Not that we'll need 8 players in on loan, but we'll only be able to send a maximum of 8 players out on loan this season. So those sort of decisions will come into my deciding of over certain players who may stay or go, because I will not be able to loan them for various reasons. The way I'm going to do this is slightly different to how I've seen other people do this. I'm actually going to do it by squad number, not by position. I think it gives you more of an opportunity to talk about each player individually rather than constantly comparing them with the other players in their position. I feel every player deserves their own piece in this. So I am going to do this by squad number. This is also going to be done via the Manchester United website in terms of who Manchester United class as their first team squad. So if there is anyone missing, let me know down in the comments and I'll give you my opinions on them as well. Without further ado, let's get straight into the action. So, we start with David De Gea, number 1. And those of you who know me will already know where I'm going with this decision. For those of you who don't, I have actually been David De Gea out even when he was getting in the FIFA Pro World 11 and being called the best goalkeeper in the world. For me, I've never seen enough from David De Gea to suggest he is at the level of other world-class goalkeepers. He is a good shot stopper on his right-hand side, and that's it. For me, he doesn't own a left hand. I challenge any of you to find me 3 good saves that he has made this season with his left hand. It's why he makes so many saves with his legs. It's to cover up for the fact that he can't make saves with his left hand. Not only that, he is permanently rooted to his goal line. He has no presence or command over the back line. The fact that people want him to be the next captain baffles me. He can't even control the 2 centre-backs in front of him, let alone an entire back 4. So how you expect him to command an entire team, I just don't get it. He's too weak. He's too cowardly. He's a good shot stopper, don't get me wrong. He's made some phenomenal saves this season that have kept us in matches. But I am utterly convinced that 75% of chances we concede, be it through defences looking all over the place or too much gap, it's just, to me, so many chances fall on De Gea. And thankfully for him, over the years, he's been good enough as a shot stopper to get himself out of certain situations. But this season, it's just not been enough. Yes, the defence has been poor, but in my opinion, a lot of it comes down to his lack of commanding presence. So for me, unfortunately, despite his years of service, David De Gea is my first one in the go section. Not sure how big or small I'm going to need these. I'm just going to do these as they go. On to Victor Lindelof. Now, in my opinion, this man has probably been the only consistently good defender this season. He's had a couple of ropey games. Certainly the one at the Etihad this season, you could feel he was at fault for a couple of the goals there. Didn't have a great game yesterday either, but I don't think anyone had a great game yesterday, if we're being honest. For me, he is a 100% stay. As I say, he's been the most consistent. He's arguably the best passer out of the defence, which is something that Ten Hag will want to bring in, I'm sure. So I see no reason to get rid of Victor Lindelof right now, purely because, like I say, he has been the most consistent. So for me, Victor Lindelof stays, and like I say, David De Gea goes. And we move on to Eric Bailly, and he's a really tough one because I really like Eric Bailly. I had the privilege of being at Wembley for his debut in the Community Shield, where our FA Cup winning team took on Leicester's Premier League winning team. And it was something like 10 minutes in, Leicester hit one of their trademark balls over the top to Jamie Vardy. And he was sprinting. This is prime Jamie Vardy as well, when he was absolutely rapid. And he flew away, and then out of nowhere, Bailly catches up to him, clears Vardy out and gets the ball. I kid you not, Jamie Vardy turned round to the Manchester United fans and went, "Who the F was that?" And from that moment, I was in love with Eric Bailly. I really thought he was going to be like the next Rio Ferdinand, and everything was looking good for him. But unfortunately, consistent injuries have just plagued his Manchester United career, meaning that when he has come in, he's never really been fully sharp. He's conceded own goals in big games. And it pains me to do it because, like I said, I really love the guy and I really expected the world for him at Manchester United. But unfortunately for me, Eric Bailly, it is time for him to go. So it is sad to say, but for me, Bailly is the next one on the go pile. Wish him all the best wherever he goes because he is a fantastic defender, but I just don't see enough of it in the end because of his injuries. And speaking of injuries, here is Mr. Phil Jones, and again, a player that promised so much, looked like he could play right back, centre back, holding midfield to a really high standard. He got himself into the England team, and again, just injury after injury after injury after injury meant that his career has never progressed. And we're now in a situation where he's over 30. He's never really going to get game time, and he's never going to reach the level that it was ever going to be expected of him. So again, unfortunately, Phil Jones is the next one to go, in my opinion. And we'll see what happens with him. Now, on to Harry Maguire. For me, Harry Maguire stays. I think it's outrageous that fans are saying after one bad season he has to go. He was our best defender on his debut season. He was our best defender 2 seasons ago. And for one reason or another, it's just not worked out for him this season. He was phenomenal at the Euros after picking up that injury. That, like, Man United fans were devastated that Harry Maguire was going to miss the Europa League final this time last year. And I truly believe we win that Europa League final with him in that defence because it would have allowed us to have been a bit more expansive. Brilliant Euros. Still recovering from his injury at the start of the season. It didn't start off well. And obviously, as we know, this season has been an absolute mess for him. Personally, as I already said already, I think this guy is a lot of the reasons that Maguire struggles. Because like I said, De Gea doesn't command that defence. He doesn't come out of his goal, meaning that you've got a slow centre-back in Harry Maguire, leaving 30-yard gaps to a De Gea that won't come out, and a De Gea that's not talking to him. Just, to me, a lot of Maguire's issues are because of De Gea. And I think you get a proper goalkeeper who commands his defence well. You look at his performances for England when Pickford plays. You look at his performances for Leicester when Schmeichel was there. There were never any of these issues because they knew how to command him and were sweeping up behind him. So for me, you absolutely give him Harry Maguire one more chance. The issue of captaincy, we will get to at the end of the video. But for now, certainly for next season, Harry Maguire stays at Manchester United. This is probably the toughest one for me. I would hate to see Manchester United lose Paul Pogba for the second time on a free transfer after we spent 90 million to get him back. The issue is you get one good game from Paul Pogba out of 10. In that one game, he looks like he can be the best player in the world. But in those other 10 games, he looks like he shouldn't be on the pitch. He says it's because we've yet to find a manager to get the best out of him. I'm not sure that's the truth. We have played systems like Juventus and France played for him, and he hasn't performed in some of those games as well. The other thing is he's one of the highest earners. Another reason for De Gea to leave, in my opinion. We've got to clear out some of this heavy wage bill. So as long as it is to another country, it looks like he's probably either going to go back to Juventus or go to PSG. As long as it's not to a rival where he could suddenly become Paul Pogba again, I'm happy to let Paul Pogba go. But I still think there is something for Pogba at Man United. But right now, we can't take that risk. We need the rebuild. We need the negative mindset players out of the club. So, in the end, Paul Pogba has to go. Ronaldo, I mean, there's no debate here. I don't know what more I can say about Cristiano Ronaldo. He just straight away goes in to stay. Top goal scorer, charismatic. He does the job. Like he's committed to stay. He wants Manchester United to get back to the level he believes they should be. So there's no real debate over Ronaldo. He has to stay. I also think we're going to struggle to find another striker in this summer transfer window. So 100% Ronaldo stays next season. Juan Mata, again, one of the nicest guys in football. I don't think you'll find an English football fan or a Premier League fan who doesn't love Juan Mata. Like, the Chelsea fans always applaud him when he returns to them. The Man United fans love him. And honestly, how we have wasted Juan Mata's career is honestly an embarrassment. And here's a stat for you. Juan Mata has been in English football for over 11 years now. He's never won the Premier League. How sad is that for such a quality player? It's funny that over the last 6 weeks we've suddenly seen what could have been actually playing him in the number 10 role. Managers were playing him on the right and or in deep lying midfield. He never really got the opportunities to play in his position. But again, unfortunately, we are looking to the future, and Mata, in my opinion, just doesn't have the levels anymore to compete at the highest level. So here's the next one, unfortunately, who will be going into the go section. On to Anthony Martial then. And what's sad about Martial is he's now been at the club for, I think this is the end of his 6th season. So if he stays, it'll be his 7th season at Man United. And the best moment of his Manchester United career was the goal on his debut. Now, you look at your own clubs, or look at any of the other players in the club right now. How many players, after so long, would you say their crowning achievement was their debut? Every single season, he has got progressively worse. The loan move to Sevilla has been an absolute disaster. He's lazy. So much potential in Anthony Martial, but with his current age, we can definitely get good money for him. I would definitely be using him as a bit part, as like a negotiating tool to get another striker from another club, if possible. Maybe we've been linked with the likes of Lautaro Martinez, Victor Osimhen, Darwin Núñez. If we can include Martial as part of those deals, I think it would make them a lot easier to come off. But if you can't tell from all of this, Martial is another one that will be heading into the go section for me. It's a shame. It is a shame because he promised so much, but he's just not done enough in the end. So Martial has to go. Marcus Rashford. I'm essentially going to say exactly the same as what I just said about Harry Maguire 5 minutes ago. How you can look at this season and say Rashford out, I don't really... I'm sorry, I understand that you can say he's had a really bad season, therefore he has to go, but the lad's 24, he's playing with his idol, the man that he wants to emulate in Cristiano Ronaldo. Again, it's just not worked out for him this season. You know, people want to make the stuff about the commitments off the pitch, this, that and the other, but we're talking about Erik ten Hag coming in, a manager who's going to take no nonsense from anyone. If he feels that Rashford is too distracted, he will let him know. And if he thinks he's underperforming, he will be gone. Whether that's in this window, in January or next summer. For me, you absolutely give Marcus Rashford another chance. He's Manchester United through and through. He will want to play for this football club. He'll want to perform for this football club, in my opinion. So you definitely give Marcus Rashford one more chance. And similarly with Harry Maguire, if it doesn't work out for him again this season, then maybe you look at getting rid of Marcus Rashford next summer. But absolutely, this summer, you keep Marcus Rashford for next season. Now, Mason Greenwood. For me, you still need to talk about it because it does matter. In my opinion, there are just two things that happen here. Option one, he's found guilty, in which case he is sacked by Manchester United and you never see him again. Second option is he's cleared of all charges and he plays next season. Now, some of you might not like me saying that, but at the end of the day, football is a business and Manchester United will not want to lose an asset as good as Mason Greenwood. He is the most talented youngster to come out of the academy in the last 20 years. So Manchester United will want to keep him. And the other thing is, like, if he is cleared, if the sponsors want to pull out and this, that and the other, they'll just get sued by Mason Greenwood and Manchester United for defamation. Like, if he's cleared, he's cleared. So, in my opinion, assuming that he is cleared, Mason Greenwood stays. And that's all I'll say about it. Lee Grant, we already know the situation with Lee Grant. He is leaving. He is retiring, I believe. So, thank you for your service. And we move on to Jesse Lingard. Again, I would love to keep Jesse just because of the type of player he is, but it's just, it can't happen. It really can't happen. I feel sorry for him this year. We definitely should have sold him in the summer last season. It was obvious he still wasn't going to get a look in over Bruno Fernandez, Rashford, Sancho, Greenwood, Ronaldo. Why we kept him, I really don't know. Especially then to keep him again in January, knowing that he wasn't going to play for the rest of this season. Clubs were offering 20 to 30 million for him. I think Newcastle offered 30 million for Jesse Lingard in January, and we said no because we want to keep him. Now he leaves for free. It's an embarrassment. I feel sorry for him, like I said, because I do love him. I would, it's a weird thing to say. I would love Lingard to stay, but I would also have no place for him in the starting lineup. So, unfortunately, Jesse Lingard is another that has to go. And speaking of goes, we now have Andreas Pereira, the pre-season Pirlo. Are we going to see it yet again under Ten Hag? I mean, I think the only real thing that needs to be said is that Flamengo don't want to keep him. Now, with the greatest of respects to the Brazilian League, any good player from the Brazilian League ends up at a Champions League level side in Europe. And if a mid-table Brazilian League side don't want to take up the option to sign Andreas Pereira, then he is nowhere near good enough to be playing for Manchester United. So I wish him well, because again, those pre-season matches, he looked fantastic, but unfortunately, again, he's another one that will have to leave. Amad Diallo. For me, this is his last chance to perform. He is going to be the first of my players that I will end up sending out on loan, but it has to be done the right way. In my opinion, he has to go to a Premier League team where he can compete for a place in the starting lineup. He's gone to Rangers in the Scottish League and he's not had any success there, which is a concern. Don't get me wrong, that is a massive concern. But for me, considering some of the other players that we'll get to, he deserves one more chance out on loan before we then decide, right, he was a mistake, we need to let him go. The fact that Alejandro Gomez says he's the most talented player that he's seen outside of Lionel Messi, from a player that good that's played for the likes of Atalanta and Sevilla and obviously the Argentinian national team, to say that Messi's the only player he's seen better than him does still fill me with hope. He is a very young player, but we have to find the right club for him. So Amad Diallo goes out on loan for me, but it all depends on where and how successful he is there to determine whether or not I decide to keep him beyond that loan. Fred. I don't get the fascination with Fred. He runs around like a lunatic and then gives the ball away. And we spent 67 million. Well, we could end up spending a total of 67 million on him. I think the initial fee was something like 55, which is an absolute embarrassment. He's 30 years old, so he's not going to get any better. I've seen some people saying, once Ten Hag gets a hold of him, he's going to get so much better. But he's 30 years old. He's not going to develop from this point onwards. He is by far the worst player in the Brazil national team when he plays for Brazil. It would absolutely shock me if he starts any games for Brazil at the World Cup, if the likes of Paqueta, Casemiro, Fabinho, etc., are all fit. There is no way Fred plays for Brazil, in my opinion. And for me, he is not good enough to play for Manchester United. We are being heavily linked with a lot of midfielders, younger midfielders that can certainly improve the team that are already better than him. So for me, we cut our losses and Fred has to go. Now, Bruno Fernandez, it has not been a very good season. In terms of contribution and in my opinion in terms of attitude. He has still played well in games. He's still scored goals. He's got assists. He's ended the season with the most chances created. But he's also ended the season by creating the goal for Crystal Palace yesterday. And just certain things like that have just really come into his game this season. Now, there's a part of me that wants to say it's because he's trying too hard. We're not performing well. So he's trying to take it upon himself to try and do everything, which has then meant he's playing even riskier passes than he should be, and etc. In my opinion, he just needs a little bit of time to calm down. The new manager will come in. He'll know how good Bruno Fernandez is. Bruno Fernandez will 100% be playing for Manchester United next season. And I just hope that the numbers in terms of goals and assists can go up when those performances start to come back. So there's no real debate over this for me. Bruno Fernandez has to stay. And so does this man, Raphael Varane. It has been slightly concerning, the amount of injuries he's had. And with the exception of the Arsenal game, I don't really think he's had a bad game. He is a world-class defender. He has won Champions Leagues, World Cup, all this, that and the other. And kind of like a couple of other players, like I say, Maguire and Rashford, you definitely give this guy one more season. If he has another season plagued by injuries, then you let him go. But he's supposed to be in the prime age of his career, certainly for a centre-back. He deserves another season at Manchester United, and hopefully, if he keeps fit, will be a major part in our rebuild. So, for me, Raphael Varane stays 100%. On to the first of the fullbacks. And this is probably the area where we've come under the most scrutiny this season, outside of Harry Maguire, because all of the fullbacks have had mismatched seasons. For me, Diogo Dalot has probably been the best of the fullbacks, and he will certainly be staying, but his defensive aspects do worry me, and we'll touch on what I would do in regards to that when we get to how I would play next season. But for me, Diogo Dalot has 100% earned his spot for next season. So yeah, Diogo Dalot stays. And now we look at Cavani, and I mean, I'd love Cavani to stay. He is a world-class centre-forward. It was my hope that the likes of Rashford and Greenwood would be learning off him, and especially when Ronaldo came in, those movements, those runs, the killer instinct. But he's only played 19 games for Manchester United this season. And like with Eric Bailly, like with Phil Jones, I cannot have players that are permanently injured at this football club. I mean, it's obvious that he's leaving anyway. It looks like he's going to get an agreement to play at a club in Spain, whether it's going to be Barcelona or somewhere lower down. It looks like he's got deals lined up for him. And I wish him all the best. He is a phenomenal striker, but even if there was a chance he'd stay, I wouldn't risk it with his injury record. So Cavani has to go. Tom Heaton, I think you just keep him as the long term, the new Lee Grant. I don't really think there's much more to say about Tom Heaton. He's got his return to his boyhood club. I'm sure we'll find games for him at some point. And yeah, I'm keeping him because there's no reason to get rid of him, really. On to the second fullback, and Luke Shaw. And this is probably going to be my most controversial decision out of all the players I'll talk about in this video. Because for me, Luke Shaw is a go and not a stay. And I have my reasons for it. If you disagree, by all means, let me know down in the comments. But I look at Luke Shaw now. He's been at the club since he was 17, 18. He's now 25. And he's really only had one good season. And that was 2 seasons ago in the run-up to the Euros, where he was then again phenomenal at the Euros. He's another player that's been seriously plagued by injury. This season, the injuries have returned, and he's now had the whatever they are, the metal rods in his bad ankle removed because they were causing him discomfort, which means what was already his most vulnerable part of his body before that injury is now even more vulnerable. And for me, he's just an injury waiting to happen. And I've seen that career trajectory before. And it's the career trajectory of this man, Phil Jones. Now, people might say, oh, you can't say that. Phil Jones has never done anything, blah, 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 blah. Phil Jones was phenomenal in his first couple of seasons for Man United. And by the time Phil Jones was the age Luke Shaw is now, Phil Jones had captained England 6 times. I can't risk these players that have injuries at this football club anymore. We need to have consistency. We need to build on things. And we can't just wait for Luke Shaw to come back and be good once every 2 or 3 months. So, unfortunately, as much as I like the player when he is fit and available, I would cash in on Luke Shaw and use the money from him to start getting some better players around the squad. Jadon Sancho, I mean, there shouldn't really be much discussion about Jadon Sancho. He had a slow start to the season, but don't get me wrong, look at all the players that are coming from the Bundesliga over the last couple of years and tell me that any of them have had a good start. I'll be very interested to see how Haaland starts with Man City in that regard as well. But second half of the season, up until he picked up his injury the last couple of weeks, I've been impressed with Jadon Sancho. He's 21 years old. He should be the future of Manchester United, and 100% he stays. And I think with the right sort of guidance, with Ten Hag, who knows how to play, he'll definitely get a lot out of Jadon Sancho, 100%. So Jadon Sancho definitely stays for next season. Now, a lot of you are probably going to be sitting there thinking, he's got rid of De Gea, so that means he's going to keep Dean Henderson. And up until literally 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, that was going to be the case. However, 2 things happened yesterday that have changed my mind. Firstly, Dean Henderson wasn't in the squad yesterday because he'd had an argument about not being in the team. So if he wasn't going to be in the team, he wasn't going to be in the whole squad. That's a really bad attitude to have, in my opinion. It's quite clear that he wants out of the club. It's quite clear that Manchester United believe they can get a good sum of money for him. Looks like Newcastle could be offering 40 million for him. So that's the first reason I've now changed my mind. And the second reason I've changed my mind is because, in my opinion, one of the best goalkeepers in the league has become available because Burnley got relegated. And I would spend the Dean Henderson and David De Gea money on Nick Pope. Because he has, in my opinion, everything we need from a goalkeeper. He is taller than De Gea. He makes more saves than De Gea. He has a commanding presence over a back line. I'm not sure how good he is with his feet. Burnley don't seem to play that way, so that'd be something that maybe Ten Hag would want to look at. But I also see no reason why we can't play long balls down to Ronaldo, because he's very good in the air. So there is that. So for me, Dean Henderson leaves and De Gea leaves, and we buy Nick Pope. Simple as that. So another one on the go pile for me. Alex Telles, essentially what I said for Dalot. Again, I really like him going forward. He puts in good balls. He always looks a threat, but isn't the best defensively. And if you haven't figured it out already, you will again see at the end of the video how I would play to cover up for Telles and Dalot's lack of defensive abilities. So for me, Alex Telles, I give him one more season. And if he still underperforms, then he has to go. But for now, he can stay. Pelistri. Again, sort of same as Ahmad. He comes in with all this promise. Young Uruguayan winger, heavily recommended by Cavani. He's going to be a future star. He's had 2 loan deals that haven't really worked out for him. So again, this is now on the Manchester United's... Whoever makes those decisions about where these players go, they have to get it right with Pelistri. He gets one more chance, same as Ahmad. He goes out on loan, and if he performs, he plays next season. If he doesn't, he leaves next season. But there's definitely a player in there for sure. We'll see. On to Wan-Bissaka, and I have to say, I'm disappointed that we're looking to sell Wan-Bissaka. I'm going to tell it right now. Wan-Bissaka is a 100% stay, in my opinion. He is by far the best tackler at this football club. Yes, he's not very good at going forward, but he's still young. He's got a manager coming in that knows how to develop players' passing abilities. So for me, he definitely deserves another chance, and I'll again sort of show why with how I would play, how I would deal with Wan-Bissaka. And another one that sort of dawned on me the other day, I don't know how it would work in principle, I don't know the player, I don't know what he could do, but we keep crying out for this holding midfielder, someone who can go in the midfield and break up the play. Has anyone considered the possibility that the best tackler at the football club could be given a go there? Let me know in the comments about that one as well. Could Wan-Bissaka play holding midfield? I don't know. I think it would be worth a try. But for me, you don't throw away defensive talent this good. Wherever he goes, if he does leave, he'll make their team better. 100%. He is so good in one-on-one situations that it would be a real shame to lose him. So I would keep him 100%, and I already have a role for him if he does stay. Nemanja Matic, again, a good holding midfielder, but unfortunately just doesn't have the legs anymore to compete at the highest level. Has really done well for Manchester United, and I feel really sorry for him. Again, kind of like Juan Mata, here's a stat for you. Nemanja Matic has been at the club for 5 seasons. He hasn't won a trophy. I mean, what a sorry statement to say for that is, for one of the best holding midfielders that the Premier League has ever seen. He's come to Manchester United for what should have been the prime years of his career, and he's not won a single trophy. And that is a really, really sad way to send him off. But unfortunately, he has decided to leave. There's not really a lot we can do about that. And again, kind of like with Mata, he doesn't have the legs to survive, I think, next season either. So with regret, Nemanja Matic is the next one to go. Brandon Williams, the man that Gary Neville said would bite your nose off for Manchester United. Really, all 3 options are available for him. A part of me thinks keep him Certainly if we can't get the fullback signings that I would like. So that's sort of what I'll say about Brandon Williams. I wouldn't have him go. I would either keep him or send him out on loan again. And that would all depend on signings. Assuming we get the players that I would want at the football club, for me, I give Brandon Williams the same treatment as Ahmad and Pelistri and say, go out on loan to another Premier League club, show you can compete at Premier League level, and if you can't, then we'll look to offload you next season. But like I say, if we don't get the players in at fullback that I think we need, then I would keep Brandon Williams as a backup, just for left back or right back. No real surprises here. Donny has to stay. He has to be given the chance to play under the manager that got the best out of him at Ajax. He has a real good opportunity to revive his career next season. And I really, really hope he pulls it off. So, yeah, Donny van de Beek stays. Not really much debate about that. But again, same as a couple of others. If it doesn't work out for him this season, he leaves next summer. On to Anthony Elanga. And I don't think he's good enough. I really don't. You sort of look at that starting lineup we had yesterday and it's like, is that really Manchester United's team? Elanga, Hanabal, again, they're future players, and it is a bit of a worry that we pinned an awful lot of hopes on him on the back end of this season. Now, obviously, we didn't know what was going to happen with Greenwood, and if we did, then Martial wouldn't have gone out on loan, and we wouldn't have had to have applied so much pressure on such young shoulders. But I've not seen enough from him yet. So for me, Anthony Elanga spends this season on loan at a Premiership team. Again, so same with Ahmad. Like, I would have these two at different Premier League clubs and sort of say to both of them, only one of you or none of you will stay at Manchester United next summer. So it's up to you to go into your new Premier League team and show me why you should be at Manchester United next season. So that is where I'm going to put Elanga. I am going to send him out on loan and see what happens. I think in reality he will end up staying, but I would definitely look to get a loan deal for Anthony Elanga this summer. Speaking of loans, we have a man returning from loan in James Garner, and kind of like with Brandon Williams, it would all come down to who we sign. I like James Garner. There's a lot of hype around James Garner. He's got himself into the Championship team of the season, which is fantastic. I wish him the best of luck in the playoff final this weekend, and I hope for his sake he's able to play a big part in Nottingham Forest getting promoted. Right now, I'll put him in the keep section, and that is because I've offloaded an awful lot of midfielders. At the moment, I've only got Bruno Fernandez and Donny van de Beek as available midfielders. So I'm going to keep James Garner for now, but if we can get 2 or 3 good midfielders in, then I would be looking to loan him back, hopefully to a promoted Nottingham Forest for next season. If not, it's probably going to be a bit harder to find a Premier League club for him. But for now, I'm going to keep James Garner. Axel Tuanzebe, on the other hand, after several loan spells away from the club, I think his time is up. He didn't play for Aston Villa that much under Dean Smith. He hasn't played at all for Napoli, so I feel really sorry for him. It's kind of what I said about Ahmad and Pelistri. You've got to find the right clubs for these players, and Manchester United haven't done that. He had that one phenomenal game against Mbappe, against PSG, but I'd be looking to get new centre-backs in. I think you start with Maguire, Lindelof and Varane. You look to sign a 4th or 5th good, proven centre-back. So, unfortunately for Axel Tuanzebe, he will be the next one on the go pile. Now, this is where things may start getting controversial again. Scott McTominay, for me, especially since you're getting rid of Fred, because you have to get rid of Fred. For me, McTominay stays, and there is a part of me that wants to make McTominay captain as well, but again, we'll get to that when we get to the end of the video. He's 25 years old, and right now, he's about 6 out of 10 at everything. I would argue, and I make this joke amongst my friends all the time about the comparisons between the two. I would argue that a 6 out of 10 at age 25 and potentially taking over as a captain is exactly the sort of same position as Jordan Henderson was when Steven Gerrard left Liverpool. In my opinion, Scott McTominay still has the potential to be one of the best midfielders in the league and possibly even in the world, but he has this season to prove it. Kind of like what I said about Wan-Bissaka, you've got a manager in Ten Hag who's going to come in, who's going to help these players develop on their ball skills, and that's exactly what McTominay needs. He's already got the size and the power and the drive to get around the pitch. He's motivated, he's a Manchester United academy player. That's why, in my opinion, he should be captain. Because he's not a whinger like Bruno and Ronaldo is, and he shows much more leadership on the pitch than Maguire does. However, it is those ball skills that are going to come under scrutiny. So, for me, McTominay stays. McTominay is captain for next season, and he starts the season in the starting 11, with Ten Hag as guiding him to develop into a world-class midfielder. If it gets to January and I see no improvements for Scott McTominay at all, I will apologise, say I shouldn't have made him captain, and I'll be looking to get rid of him in January. But, I said, given his age, given the manager coming in, I really think there is an opportunity here to turn a good player into a really good player. And that's why, for me, Scott McTominay stays. From here on out, we're getting into the high numbers now. So we'll sort of just go through these pretty quickly and we'll go from there. So, Medbury, again, no, it's not Medbury, Mengi. Hanabal Medbury. This is Mengi, the centre-back. Again, he's not really going to get any first-team opportunities this season. He was the under-23s captain. I think, again, you look for a good loan deal for him. And if he performs, we'll assess him again next season. Chong, for me, has had far too many chances and hasn't taken any of them. He's been on multiple loan deals to Germany, where he ended up playing at left back. He's not really done anything at Birmingham in the Championship. So for me, same with Tuanzebe. He's had far too many chances to impress, and it's just not going to happen for him. He's at an age now where he should already be established as a Premier League player, and he just isn't. So unfortunately, Chong has to go. We'll stick him down here. Can we squeeze him in? We'll squeeze him in. Hanabal Medbury, I thought impressed yesterday. He's got a good attitude, but again, how many first team opportunities is he going to get? In my opinion, this season, not enough. He needs to be looking again, like the other players in the loan section. He needs to be looking at Premier League teams, maybe one of the newly promoted sides. Fulham have just lost Fabio Carvalho to Liverpool. I think he could fit in at Fulham in that exact position perfectly. A great opportunity to get something out of him. I see a lot of good things about Hanabal, so he goes out on loan to a Premier League team, and I genuinely, Fulham would be my target, and we'll stick him in the loan section. Quickly followed by Shoretire, same again, send him out on loan. He needs game time now, can't just mill around in the under-23s forever, so try and get him possibly at a Premier League club. I think it'd be harder for him to find a Premier League club, but maybe get him in a Championship club where he's going to get the opportunity to play a lot of games, score a lot of goals and develop from there. Fernandez, someone that I keep hearing good things about, but I'm yet to see him actually play. He looks like a phenomenal up-and-coming left-back. I would actually keep him. I don't want to take too many players out of the under-23s just yet. I also think we don't need to loan him out, especially, like I said, I have sold Luke Shaw, I've loaned out Brandon Williams, and I've only kept Telles. I would like to see Fernandez be the backup left back for next season if we don't get another left back in. And if we do get another left back in, then you put Fernandez into the 23s again for next season, and then maybe look at loaning him out next season if we can't find a spot for him. But I like the look of him. Hopefully he will impress. And finally we have Garnacho. So In my opinion, you've got two options with Garnacho. Option one is if we can't find ourselves a decent striker option in the summer, then we keep him and we have him as the backups to Ronaldo, Rashford and Greenwood if he's back. Alternatively, I think you could get Garnacho in a Premier League team. I really do. He scores a lot of goals. He looks really promising. I'd love to see him, maybe put him up front with Solanke for Bournemouth. There are going to be other teams looking for strikers. I think he could do a job at Brighton. Neil Maupay and Danny Welbeck don't really score enough goals for them, and he'd be working with a former Manchester United academy player as well with Welbeck. I really think you could get something out of Garnacho in a Premier League club this season. So he will be the 8th player that I send out on loan. But again, if transfers don't go my way, then I would probably keep him for next season as well. And that is it in terms of the squad that Manchester United has as their official first team squad. So that's who I would have. 16 players staying, even more going, and then the 8 out on loan. Obviously, some of those loan players could come back into the fold as and when required. So the last thing to look at is then how I would take the players that I've kept and how I would play them. And this right here is how I'd do it. So I'm just using Futbin because it's a good visualization of how we'd do it. And I would play 3-4-3 like this. And I have several reasons for this. Firstly, I think it suits the players that we have. I spoke earlier about how Dalot and Telles aren't the best defensively, but they're good at going forward. So let them go forward more. Play them as a wing-back. Then you've got the extra cover of 3 centre-backs to cover either side, depending on which one goes forward. Secondly, Maguire has historically performed much better in back threes, be that at Leicester or for England. Varane has performed his best football for France in a back three, and I also think this suits Lindelof because it gives him more freedom to play some of his passes. This is also where I would then look at having Wan-Bissaka. So I would put Wan-Bissaka as an option as right centre-back, meaning he doesn't have to go forward more. He can just concentrate on the defensive style of his game, and I really think he would be a fantastic right centre-back. Also potentially gives him a route back into the England squad, which he clearly wants to do because he hasn't yet signed for another country, which he's had plenty of opportunities to do so. I think Wan-Bissaka could really do a job there. Then you've got the midfield too. This just gives them more freedom to roam around. You don't need an outstanding holding midfielder when you play this system. You need good tacklers, but you need players that are more all-rounded. And I think Mctominay and Fernandez can do that. And then, of course, you've got the front three. Ronaldo gets the support he needs because there are 3 players up front. Sancho can drop into the little pockets between the 2 of them. I just think that is the best setup for our players. On top of that, it's also proved... So, second reason is we have to improve defensively. We just finished the season with a goal difference of 0. So I would be looking to strengthen the defence by playing 5 at the back. I know it's a bit negative, but just gives that extra layer of security. And then the final reason is we are looking to catch up with Liverpool and Man City. And it has been proven on several occasions that the best way of playing against those 2 teams is this setup. We won 3 times in a row at the Etihad playing this system under Solskjaer. Chelsea have performed brilliantly against Man City and Liverpool in this system. Tottenham have performed brilliantly against Man City and Liverpool in this system. And if we're going to be competitive, I'm not going to say if we play like this, we're suddenly going to be title challengers. But if we are going to be serious about competing against Liverpool and Man City, we need to be able to beat them. So this is, like I said, this is the style of play that I'll be looking to play with the players we have available to us. And then finally, like I said, we'll now have the captain's debate. So for me, captaincy is between McTominay and Ronaldo. I've already spoken about how I don't think Maguire is a good enough leader. De Gea is leaving for Nick Pope in my team. Fernandez, as passionate as he is, I don't like his style of dealing with players. It's not constructive criticism. He just moans at them. And I see that from Ronaldo as well. They're both just whingers, in my opinion. So For me, McTominay is captain next season. I have him in this position where he can control the midfield. I know that's a worrying concept for certain fans, but that's where I'd have McTominay in the midfield, driving around and being the leader of the team from the centre of the pitch. Then we have the options of new signings. So I've not gone crazy with the potentials. These are all players that we have been linked with that I think are realistic targets. I've taken Darwin Núñez out because he's going to cost 90 million and he wants Champions League football. I've included De Jong in there because of obviously the history with Ten Hag, and yesterday he removed Barcelona player from his social bios on Twitter and Instagram, so looks like he is going to be leaving Barcelona. I'm hoping it's to Man United, but for now that remains to be seen. So I have included De Jong down there. Like, if we get De Jong, then unfortunately McTominay comes out and you've got De Jong and Fernandez, and then you probably give Ronaldo the captaincy. So that would be fantastic. I also then think you've got Conrad Lima. I think he's a very realistic option. He's a proven holding midfielder and right wing back for RB Leipzig. So you've got the versatility of him. I would love to see him play for Manchester United as well. Centre-backs, obviously I've only kept 3 centre-backs, and I've said how I'd keep Wan-Bissaka as a right-sided centre-back as well, that can also play right-back. That's when you then have Timber. So Timber is comfortable in the right side of the defence or as a right-back himself. Gives you the option to play 4 at the back with Timber if you're going to do that. And then Martinez is a left-footed centre-half, so again gives you that option to play like this. And this would be an incredible starting lineup, I think, for the first game of next season. Because these, in my opinion, these 4 are all realistic signings this summer. I think if you get those 4, and this was the starting lineup for the first game of the season, I'd be relatively excited. You've then got Sousa, who we've been heavily linked with as well. He's already a wing-back for Stuttgart. He looks like a good player. Ten Hag seems to be pushing for him. So, you know, I'm not going to knock anyone that Ten Hag wants. If he wants them, give him the resources, get him in there. And then the other 2 slightly unrealistic ones. There are all these links with Anthony, but there is the potential that he could be going to Liverpool as well. If you're him, you'd probably choose Liverpool if you want immediate success, in my opinion, or you choose Manchester United if you want to be part of a project under a manager who trusts you. Finally, you then have Nkunku, who could play here, could play here, could play here, could play here. Like, he's so versatile across the attacking line. Again, you could play 4 at the back if you had Nkunku, and play him with Ronaldo in a front 2, play him off Ronaldo, play him with Fernandez. Like, you could have situations where you have Fernandez as Nkunku as the front 2 off Ronaldo, and then you stick Van der Beek in midfield or Garner in midfield. There are so many options if you sign Nkunku. So that's how I'd be looking to play. These are the players I'd be looking to get in. I think all of them, with the exceptions of Nkunku and De Jong, are realistic signings. And finally, obviously, again, Nick Pope would be my first player I signed. I'd be looking to sign him today. I'd be looking to get rid of De Gea and Henderson after what happened yesterday, and I'd be looking to sign Nick Pope literally today, if I could. And that's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about whether or not you agree with who I would keep, who I would go, what you think about the style of play I'd like to implement, what you think about me making McTominay captain. And yeah, I will be back in a couple of days' time with a similar video to this, but this time I'm going to be picking my England squad for the Nations League. Certain players from this video will definitely be coming up in that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon.